Posted a TikTok when your boyfriend's gift game is weak on Christmas morning. I'd given her a $3,000 necklace she'd specifically requested. I commented, "Noted." Then I returned it, got a full refund, and donated the money to a women's shelter in her name. When the thank you card from the shelter arrived at her parents' house. Original post. I, 28 male, work as a regional sales manager for a medical equipment company. Not glamorous, but pays well, about $95,000 base plus commission. I've been smart with money since college, no debt, decent savings, and I don't blow cash on stupid stuff. I mention this because it matters for what comes next. My girlfriend and I had been together for 2 years. Met through mutual friends at a barbecue. Hit it off. Moved in together after 14 months. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized company, made around $52,000, and had a lifestyle that, let's just say, didn't quite match her income. Designer bags, Sephora hauls, constant restaurant meals. I noticed, but didn't say much because she always paid her half of rent and utilities on time. Around October, she started dropping hints about Christmas. Heavy hints, like showing me her phone with a specific necklace pulled up on Tiffany's website kind of hints. It was a pendant from their tea collection, white gold, small diamonds, $2,950 before tax. She'd say things like, "This would look so perfect with my New Year's dress," and "I've literally never wanted anything more. I'm not a mind reader, but I can take a hint when it's delivered via billboard." So I bought it, saved up for 2 months, went to the actual store, got it gift wrapped in that iconic blue box. I was genuinely excited to give it to her. Thought she'd be thrilled. Christmas morning at my apartment. Her parents were coming over for brunch later, so it was just us for the gift exchange. I handed her the blue box and watched her face light up with recognition before she even opened it. She opened it, looked at the necklace, and her face did this thing, this shift that I can only describe as disappointment trying to wear a smile costume. "Oh," she said. "The pendant." "Yeah, the one you show me like 30 times. I laughed, thinking maybe she was just overwhelmed. "No, I know it's beautiful." She put on, took a selfie, then set the box aside. "Thank you, babe." That was it. No hug, no kiss, just "thank you, babe," like I'd handed her a gift card to Applebee's. I gave her a few minutes. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she'd warm up to it. I want to start prepping for brunch. About 20 minutes later, I walked back into the living room to grab something, and she was on her phone, giggling. Didn't think much of it. Her parents arrived at 11. Nice people mostly. Her mom could be a bit much, very focused on appearances, always asking when we were getting engaged, making comments about my potential. Her dad was chill, barely talked, seemed to just be along for the ride. Brunch went fine. Normal family stuff. They left around 2 p.m. Around 4 p.m., my buddy sent me a text. "Bro, check your girl's TikTok." WEF. I didn't follow her TikTok. I don't really use that app except occasionally when someone sends me something, but I knew her handle. I searched it. The video had been posted at 10:47 a.m. Christmas morning, while I was making bacon and eggs for her parents' arrival. It showed her opening the Tiffany box with text overlay that read, "When your boyfriend's gift game is weak sleeping face," and the sound was some audio about being underwhelmed. The camera caught her forced smile, and then cut to her looking at the camera with an exaggerated, disappointed expression. The necklace I'd spent almost $3,000 on was being mocked as weak to her 15,000 followers. I watched it 3 times. Then I checked the comments. People were roasting me. "Girl, dump him, skull," and "he couldn't even get the bracelet set," and "this is why I have standards," with laughing emojis. She was responding to some of them with things like, "I know, right, loudly crying face," and "men really don't listen." I sat there for about 10 minutes, just processing. 2 years, $3,000, and she was performing disappointment for internet clout while I made her breakfast. I didn't confront her right away. I'm not a yeller, not a dramatic confrontation guy. I process things slowly, and then I act decisively. Instead, I walked back out to the living room where she was watching TV and said, "Hey, saw your TikTok." She looked up, and I watched the color drain from her face. "Which one?" "The one where my gift game is weak." "Babe, it was just a joke. For content. You know how TikTok is." "Yeah," I said. I noted that. Then I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and looked up Tiffany's return policy. Unworn items with receipt. Within 30 days, full refund. I had 30 days. Update 1, 3 days later. Okay, this got way more attention than I expected. Let me tell you what happened after Christmas. First, the return. I waited until December 27th. She'd worn the necklace exactly once, to her friend's Christmas after-party on the 26th. When she got home that night, I casually mentioned that the clasp seemed loose and offered to take it back to the store to have it checked. She handed it over without suspicion. Yeah, it did feel a little weird. Thanks, babe. I drove to Tiffany's the next morning. The necklace was in perfect condition. She'd barely worn it. I explained I wanted to return it. The associate was professional, processed the refund, and $2,950 went back onto my credit card. Now here's where I did something that might seem petty, but hear me out. I've been volunteering occasionally at a local women's shelter. Started doing it after my aunt left an abusive marriage and stayed at one for a few weeks. It's something that matters to me. So when I got that refund, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I went to the shelter's website and made a donation. $2,950. And here's the key part. I made it her name. Her full legal name. They send thank you cards to donors, and I made sure the mailing address was her parents' house, where she still received some mail because she hadn't updated everything when she moved in with me. Then I went home and started quietly moving my important stuff to my buddy's garage. Not everything, just things that mattered. My grandmother's recipe box, my gaming PC, important documents. Stuff I didn't want to deal with in a potential blow-up. Meanwhile, she had no idea. The TikTok was still up. It had gotten to about 84,000 views at this point. She was riding the engagement high, making follow-up videos about gift expectations and relationships, and when he doesn't know your love language. One of them featured her holding up the necklace, well, holding up an empty blue box since I had the actual necklace back, talking about how material gifts aren't everything, but effort matters. I watched these videos in my car during lunch breaks, just documenting, screenshotting, not because I was planning some elaborate revenge, but because I wanted to remember why I was doing what I was doing when the guilt inevitably hit. On December 29th, she asked about the necklace. Hey, did you pick up the necklace from Tiffany's? The clasp thing. Yeah, I handled it, I said. Can I have it back? I want to wear it to New Year's. Actually, I said, I returned it. The silence lasted about 4 seconds. You returned it? Why? Because your gift game comment made it pretty clear you didn't want it. That was a joke. For content. I explained this, and I noted it. Hence the return. She started crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. The kind where you can see the fury underneath the tears. You're punishing me for a TikTok? Do you know how insane that sounds? I'm not punishing you. I bought you something you asked for. You publicly mocked it. I returned it. Pretty straightforward. Where's the money then? This is when I told her about the donation. I donated it to a women's shelter. In your name. You should get a thank you card at your parents' place in a few weeks. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You donated $3,000 to charity? My $3,000. It was never your money. It was a gift you didn't want. So I gave it to people who would appreciate it. She completely lost it at that point, screaming about how I was financially abusive, how I was manipulative, how she was going to tell everyone what I did. Go ahead, I said. Make a TikTok about it. Update 2, 1 week later, New Year's Day. Happy New Year, I guess. What a week. So after the blow-up on the 29th, she didn't leave the apartment. I figured she would pack her stuff, go to her parents' dramatic exit. Nope. She decided to stay and make my life miserable instead. The tactics started small. She accidentally unplugged my gaming console while I was in the middle of something. She forgot to tell me her parents were coming over, so they showed up while I was in boxers eating cereal. She made passive-aggressive comments constantly. Must be nice to have money to just throw away, that kind of thing. But the real drama started when the thank you card arrived at her parents' house. Her mom called me directly on December 31st, New Year's Eve, at approximately 9:47 a.m. What is this? No greeting. Just pure ice. What is what? This card from a women's shelter thanking my daughter for her generous donation. She didn't donate anything. So either this is fraud or you did something. I explained what happened. All of it. The TikTok, the return, the donation. There was a long pause. Then, so you're telling me my daughter publicly humiliated you on the internet after you bought her a $3,000 gift, and your response was to donate the money to charity in her name? That's correct. Another pause. I need to call you back. Apparently what happened next was legendary. My girlfriend's mom, who I genuinely thought would take her side, went absolutely nuclear on her. Not because she was defending me, but because she was embarrassed. The thank you card was going to be seen by anyone who checked their mail. The shelter posts donor names on their website for contributions over $500. Her mom's book club friends might see it. Her dad's golf buddies might see it. The horror. The social implications. My girlfriend called me screaming from her parents' house. She'd driven over there after her mom called her. My mom is losing her mind. She's acting like I committed a crime. You publicly mocked a $3,000 gift for internet clout. Your mom cares about appearances. This was predictable. You did this on purpose. You wanted to humiliate me. I wanted to do something good with money that was going to waste. The humiliation is a bonus. She hung up, drove back to the apartment, started packing. Now, here's where things get interesting, because she didn't just pack and leave. She decided she was owed something first. I came home from a New Year's Day brunch with my friends to find her loading things into her car. My things. Specifically, my PS5, 2 of my coats, a Bluetooth speaker, and a box of stuff from my desk. What are you doing? Taking what I'm owed. You stole $3,000 from me. This is compensation. I didn't steal anything. I returned a gift you mocked and donated the refund. None of that was ever yours. 2 years of my life. You owe me. I pulled out my phone and started recording. She saw it and froze. Put the stuff back, or I'm calling the police for theft. You wouldn't. Try me. She must have seen something in my face because she started unloading the car. But not without commentary. You're going to regret this. Everyone is going to know what kind of person you are. The kind who donates to women's shelters? Yeah, devastating reputation. She left that night. Slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I fixed the nail, reheated some leftovers, and watched the ball drop replay on my DVR. Update 3 weeks later, the aftermath. All right, final update, because I think this story has reached its natural conclusion. After she moved out, I expected some level of drama. What I didn't expect was the campaign. First, she tried the mutual friends angle. We have had about 6 couples we hung out with regularly. She reached out to each of them with her version of events. I was financially controlling. I took back a gift to punish her. I was vindictive and cruel. Here's what she didn't account for. All of those friends had seen a TikTok. Most of them had texted me about it when it first went up. A few had even commented on it, trying to defend me before she deleted those comments. So when she came to them with her sob story, most of them said some version of, "We saw the video. Sorry, but you kind of brought this on yourself." She lost 4 of the 6 couples. The 2 that sided with her were her college roommate and the roommate's husband, who I'd never really liked anyway. Fair trade. Next came the family pressure. Her mom, who'd initially been furious at her, apparently did a 180 when she realized this breakup was permanent. Suddenly, I was the villain who couldn't take a joke and ruined her daughter's Christmas. Her dad texted me once, just said, "Sorry about all this." For what it's worth, I thought the necklace was nice. I respected that. Her mom tried to get me to pay back the donation money. Not to the shelter, to her daughter. You essentially stole that money. You should make it right. Ma'am, I bought a gift. It was rejected. I returned it and donated the proceeds. Nothing was stolen. If you'd like to continue this conversation, we can do it through attorneys. That shut her up. The final piece of drama came about 2 weeks after the breakup. I got a notification that I'd been tagged in a TikTok. She made a video about me. It was framed as a story time about her toxic ex who took back a Christmas gift to punish her for a joke. She didn't use my name, but anyone who knew us would know who she meant. The video got decent traction, about 200K views. But here's the thing about the internet. People are smarter than you think. Commenters started asking questions. Wait, what was the original joke? Can we see the video you posted? What was the gift? She deleted the original TikTok by this point, but someone had screen recorded it. It got posted in her comments, and suddenly the narrative shifted. Girl, you mocked a $3,000 Tiffany necklace, and you're mad. He returned it. Skull. The trash took itself out and is now complaining about being outside. He donated to a women's shelter. That's literally iconic. This is the most expensive L I've ever seen someone take. She deleted that video too, then made her account private. Then, according to mutual friends, deactivated entirely. I'm not going to pretend this whole thing didn't hurt. 2 years is a long time. There were good moments, real moments, mixed in with all the red flags I ignored. I catch myself sometimes reaching for my phone to text her something funny, then remembering. But I also know I dodged something. The entitlement, the performative victimhood, the way she genuinely believed she was owed that money because we dated, that doesn't develop overnight. That was always there, just hidden better. The shelter sent me a handwritten note about a month after the donation. Said the funds had helped cover emergency housing for 3 families over the holidays. 3 families who needed it more than she needed another piece of jewelry to mock online. I keep that note in my desk drawer. On bad days, I read it. My buddy asked me last week if I regretted how I handled things. If I do anything different. Honestly, I wish I'd seen the signs earlier. I wish I hadn't spent $3,000 on someone who valued content over connection. I wish 2 years of my life hadn't been invested in someone who saw me as a prop in her online performance. But the return, the donation, the way I handled the aftermath, no regrets. Some gifts are better given to people who actually deserve them.
Ever having experienced trauma, a lot of people will feel uncomfortable admitting and accepting that they have experienced some trauma. What are some of our misconceptions around what trauma is and how it affects us? And would you mind explaining what sort of experiences are defined as traumatic to help us expand our definition?
So most of us first heard the concept of sort of trauma as we're talking about it now in context of post-traumatic stress disorder and combat veterans. And so even within our field in psychiatry, the majority of people who studied trauma and looked at trauma were looking at the effects of these horrific events, exposure to combat, death of a soldier next to you, as the thing to understand around trauma. But over time, the people like me who were studying the stress response systems in animal models were very well aware that it's not necessarily these big traumatic events that are easily identified by everybody as a trauma that will lead to the changes in the brain that cause the problems. And so certainly if you do have these events, that can be a problem. So natural disaster, house fire, car accident, abuse of all sorts, that's certainly traumatic. But probably the most important thing, and I think the thing that's impacting more children and adults than anything else, are experiences that are patterns of stress activation where you have no control over the experience. It's not predictable and it's prolonged, it's ongoing. And I think to some degree, the experiences of the last year are an example for many people of a prolonged set of uncontrollable and unpredictable stressors. And we've all felt sort of our baseline level of tolerance is going down. We're a little bit more tired. We can handle situations a little bit less. And so what we've been studying is the combination of these experiences where you are not in control of your life. And it may be a child who's living in a domestic violence environment where he or she is not the direct target of all of this stuff, but there's so much unpredictability about when the fighting is going to happen. And there's so much unpredictability about whether mom is going to be in a good mood today or a bad mood, or dad's going to be angry or not angry. And that can lead to these physiological changes that increase your risk for physical health problems, mental health problems, and learning problems. And so that's kind of where we're moving in the field, is this recognition that you don't just have to have some sort of capital T trauma in your life to be impacted by trauma. And in fact, if you are a minority in a majority culture you're going to get all kinds of experiences where you're getting these relational interactions that are sending the signal that you don't belong, which will activate your stress response, which can over time accumulate and influence your physical and mental health.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Perry, for illuminating on that point, because I think for so many of us, as you rightly just said there, we feel that trauma only means trauma with a capital T. And so we often disregard, we often let these things just fade away and, put them under the carpet and just not really give them enough emphasis and focus because we don't see them as being significant. And so, yes,